Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast, where we take deep dives into the trends shaping the future of work.
And, more importantly, how you can stay ahead of them.
Exactly. Today, we're doing a really crucial deep dive into a topic that I think is often misunderstood: remote work accessibility.
It really is. I think this topic usually gets siloed under, compliance or HR paperwork.
Yes, exactly.
And what we want to do today is tear down that silo.
Yeah.
Based on the source material we analyzed, accessibility is actually the next frontier in business efficiency, talent acquisition, and really overall organizational performance. It's about competitive advantage.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the sheer scale of the change is just, it's staggering. We've seen a five-fold jump in at-home work arrangements since 2019.
A five-fold jump.
Which means employee expectations have just fundamentally shifted about inclusion. If you're viewing accessibility as just a compliance cost, you are missing out on immense talent and retention gains.
Absolutely. And that's because true remote work accessibility isn't just about, handing out a generic work-from-home stipend. It means systematically removing barriers through tailored ergonomic setups, the right assistive tools, and crucially, accessible digital communication platforms. It's about fitting the work environment to the human, not demanding the human contort to the environment.
So what's the concrete proof point here? The thing that ties this concept directly to performance and, justifies the investment for any leader listening.
Well, the central finding here, and this is something every C-suite listener needs to internalize, is from the National Organization on Disability study. They looked at people with disabilities working remotely during the pandemic and found, 70% reported higher productivity.
70%.
And 63% noted a better quality of life.
Yeah.
You simply cannot ignore a strategy that delivers performance gains that are that staggering.
Wow.
And it's just by allowing people to work in an environment that's optimized for their actual needs.
That completely shifts the entire discussion. It proves that tailored inclusion creates optimal output, so it's not a niche accommodation.
Not at all. It's an operational design for better performance for everyone.
But if the return on investment is so clear, why are we still having this conversation?
Because the market shift is permanent. And policy. Well, policy often lags way behind reality. This isn't just some temporary trend.
Right.
We know from the data that 65% of employees want to work fully from home, and about 35% explicitly feel more productive when they do. This desire for flexibility is now, I'd say, a non-negotiable factor in the modern talent market.
So if we look at the direct business case for treating these flexible setups as, an accessibility tool, we're talking about three interlocking bottom line benefits. There's the massive productivity boost we just mentioned, stopping talent bleeding, and what's the third one?
Expanding the hiring net. I mean, it's simple. If you remove geographic or physical office barriers, you naturally widen the talent pool.
Of course.
But that retention factor you mentioned is massive. The data shows 57% of employees would consider leaving if flexibility is removed.
57%, that's a huge risk.
It's a massive risk. And losing talent over policy friction is just.
Right.
It's entirely avoidable and, frankly, strategically foolish in a competitive market.
And here's where it gets really interesting and a little frustrating, to be honest. We have this clear business case, and yet Bloomberg Law reports that employers denied roughly,
70%.
70% of at-home disability-related requests since 2021. That denial rate just screams systemic disconnect between the proven business benefit and what's actually happening on the ground.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It suggests that leaders are often paralyzed by, the fear of the exception. They worry that one request will open the floodgates.
And that fear is overriding the benefit of the rule.
Exactly. If 3/4 of these requests are getting shot down, we aren't translating proven benefits into routine practice.
Yeah.
That massive gap, that is the lost opportunity we need to address.
That denial gap is so frustrating. It really suggests leaders are struggling to operationalize this. So how do we move past that policy paralysis? Let's dive into the practical pillars of implementing this accessible experience.
All right, let's get into solutions. We start by recognizing accessibility is holistic. It begins with the physical workspace. We need to move beyond just saying, get a comfortable chair, and talk about tailored home workspaces. This means considering structural details. So maybe a lower desk is necessary for wheelchair clearance, or adjustable chairs have to have robust lumbar support. Even ensuring clear floor paths is critical to reducing the risk of falls.
So it's about designing a system that minimizes physical effort, reduces that friction?
Precisely. The goal is to reduce repetitive strain by ensuring that the tools you use most often are easily within what's called the reach envelope.
Okay.
And once that physical space is stable, then we can leverage assistive technology to make the digital space stable.
And these technologies are essential, right? They're not just optional add-ons. What are the key tools professionals really need to be aware of?
So think about these tools not just as replacements, but as the user's main interface.
Mhm.
A screen reader like NVDA or JWDAC isn't just reading text aloud.
Right, it's providing structure.
It's providing structure, navigation cues, everything. Or if you navigate primarily by voice, using software like Dragon, naturally speaking, or even the built-in OS dictation features, that system is your keyboard and your mouse.
So if the company software isn't built to listen, you've essentially locked that person out.
You've cut off their access entirely.
Yeah.
And it's the same for tools like high contrast themes or magnification. They're vital for managing visual differences and just plain fatigue.
That brings us directly to digital communication, which is the absolute cornerstone of remote teams. I'm talking meetings and documentation. How do we make platforms like Zoom and Teams genuinely inclusive?
So inclusive meetings should be mandatory, and best practice demands requiring live closed captions and transcription in every single meeting.
Every meeting.
Every meeting. And this isn't just for hard-of-hearing colleagues. It massively benefits anyone in a noisy home environment, non-native speakers, or, anyone who just processes information better visually.
And what about for those who use assistive tech to navigate the meeting platform itself?
You have to enable keyboard shortcuts for all navigation.
Yeah.
If you force a mouse-only interface, you create a huge and totally unnecessary barrier. And critically, always share transcripts afterwards.
Ah, it's a big one.
It is. It lets people review, catch points they missed, and contribute thoughtfully outside of that high-pressure, real-time demand.
Now, content creation, I think this is the area where most companies fail without even realizing it. We just overlook how inaccessible a standard internal memo or a training deck can be.
It's probably the easiest fix, but it requires the most discipline. For documents, emails, training materials, you have to use proper structure.
What does that mean in practice?
It means sending materials in advance, keeping emails text forward, using descriptive link text, never just that generic click here,
Right.
and structuring documents with proper heading levels. The strategic insight here is that screen readers rely on those headings for navigation. If your document is just one big block of text, you force the user to listen to the whole thing.
Which is a huge waste of time.
Yeah.
Massively inefficient.
Exactly. And of course, alt text for images is non-negotiable for context.
And finally, the strategic choice of software itself. You can do everything right internally, but if your core vendor stack is failing you, you're just stuck retrofitting forever.
Absolutely paramount. You have to prioritize vendors who publish clear conformance details. Look for adherence to recognized standards like WCAG.
That's the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, right?
That's the one, the global standard. And also look for ARIA support, which stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications. ARIA is crucial for making dynamic things, like complex drop-down menus and sliders, comprehensible to assistive tech. That due diligence up front prevents massive friction and cost down the road.
So we've covered the what and the how-to. Now for the really strategic part. So what does this all mean for turning the corner from that painful 70% denial rate? We need to make accommodations routine, not exceptions.
It means embedding accessibility into the company's operational DNA. Policy needs to transform into predictable practice. The biggest block is often just administrative friction.
How do you get rid of that friction?
You need clear processes, standard request forms, a guaranteed clear timeline for approval, and a single, well-trained contact in HR who handles reasonable accommodations. The employee should never have to hunt for the right person or, the right budget.
Let's focus on that budget element for a second. Who pays, and what's the strategic value of centralizing that funding?
The employer pays. And centralizing budgets and criteria is non-negotiable because it speeds up procurement and it removes gatekeeping.
So it takes the pressure off individual managers.
Exactly. When funding is ad hoc, a manager might deny a necessary piece of software because they're worried about their own departmental budget. Centralized criteria allow these accommodations to scale efficiently across the whole organization without that managerial bias.
And we can't ignore the legal scaffolding that underpins this entire structure.
Precisely. So managers have to be trained on legal protections like the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Rehabilitation Act. But, and this is critical, compliance is the floor. We're aiming much higher than just meeting the minimum legal requirements.
So what does hire look like?
Strategically, HR policy needs to be tied to measurable disability employment goals. Things like hiring, retention, and promotion rates.
Hmm.
That's how you ensure that organizational decisions actually match the strategic intent of inclusion.
And that leads directly to accountability. Because if you can't measure these goals, you can't improve them. What are the key metrics that truly matter here?
We need granular data. You have to track hires, promotions, retention, and engagement, specifically for workers with disabilities. The critical actionable step is that organizations need to publish these trends yearly, even if it's just
Oh,
internally.
so everyone can see the numbers.
Right. That evidence forces leaders to course correct with data. It turns that abstract good intent into genuine, accountable action.
This entire deep dive has just reinforced that accessibility isn't some policy burden. It really is the competitive advantage that we gained from this whole flexible work revolution.
It is the lasting gain. Those initial numbers prove it. 70% productivity gains, 63% better quality of life for workers who moved home during the pandemic. When companies prioritize this stuff and move from just intent to real action,
Equipping teams with the right setups, setting inclusive digital norms.
updating policies. They don't just solve a problem, they create profound organizational stability and efficiency.
It protects careers, it opens up access to these massive pools of talent, and it delivers benefits that will endure far beyond a single budget cycle. So for you, our listener, here is the final thought to carry forward into your own organization.
Consider this. How often is your current policy for reasonable accommodation truly routine and predictable versus a rare friction-filled exception that's handled case by case?
If it's the latter, you are actively adding friction where you should be creating efficiency. Moving accommodation into a routine, predictable system benefits everyone by increasing speed and reducing administrative drag for all users, regardless of who is making the request.
A fantastic strategic takeaway.
It really is. Thank you so much for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast. We hope this deep dive into remote work accessibility provides the strategic clarity you need to make smart, forward-thinking decisions in your work or your business.
For more strategic insights on the future of work and to get access to the full article we discussed today, be sure to subscribe. The link can be found right there in the show notes.
We'll catch you next time.